I had Brian Davila on the podcast, and he talked about how after quitting high school after his freshman year and getting 2 jobs, starting a barbershop that totally failed, he found out that he could make $70,000 as a real estate agent and went on to make $150,000 by focusing on a single thing, which he says is the most important part to starting in real estate wholesaling as well, is focusing on calling people and setting up appointments. He then switched from being a real estate agent to wholesaling because he realized, just doing math, that his mentor Ryan Pineda could make $25,000 per deal in Las Vegas, and that was twice as much as Brian was making as a real estate agent. So by switching from an agent to being a wholesaler, he was able to double his income that very same year. I know you guys are going to get a lot of information on what to focus on when you're focusing on getting your first wholesale deal. Get ready for an awesome episode with Brian Davila.
The DealMachine REI podcast. Everything you need to know to get started in real estate investing.
All right, everybody. So we've got Brian Davila with us today. And Brian, I'm just wondering, in 60 seconds, could you tell us like a little bit about who you are and what you're about?
Yeah, in 60 seconds. So my name is Brian Davila. I was born in Puerto Rico, moved to Las Vegas when I was about 5 years old, dropped out of high school about freshman year, got into real estate when I was 25 years old as a real estate agent, got up to making about like $500,000 a year as a real estate agent, and then discovered flipping. From who now is my partner, Ryan Pineda. He mentored me, showed me how to start flipping houses, made 7 figures a year flipping houses, started running a company called Future Flipper with Ryan, where we teach real estate investors how to flip houses, wholesale, and buy rentals, grown that business to a 7-figure a month business. And yeah, now I'm here with you.
Holy cow. So, and you're,
Dude,
and you're
that's
32.
awesome.
It is so awesome. And you're 32-year-old now, right?
Yep, 32 years old right now.
What does it feel like to be so young, 32, and in charge of where somebody lives? Pretty much the most important thing that they pay for.
I actually feel really old, so that's interesting. Usually people don't say 32 is young, but I feel a lot of responsibility, and I feel like I take care of all the tenants that I have in all my properties, and I try to make sure that whenever we flip a house, that the buyer never has an issue to deal with. So we make sure that we take care of everyone, including the employees, the contractors, the realtors, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But that's such a huge thing at 32 years old. Like, it's not old, just to be clear, because 36 is not old either, from what I've heard. But being that age, being 32 and having that much responsibility on your plate, that's a big deal. Like you dropped out of high school. What, you said your freshman year?
Yeah, freshman year.
Or after your freshman year? Which I was not a great student myself. So it just kind of goes to show, like, it really doesn't matter if you finish high school or not. You can still make huge impact in your life at 32 years old. And you're
100%.
You're probably doing better than half the people probably more than half the people you were in school with when you were there.
Yeah. A lot of people are surprised what ended up happening.
That is so awesome.
They tell me all the time on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. From the stands.
And I'm really,
hey, great job.
Really glad you brought. Really glad that you brought that up, Ryan. And I thought you were an A+ student. So, I mean, I just assumed. So now you've told me the truth.
A+, in weightlifting and rec sports.
PE and lunch.
I was amazing in lunch.
So, Brian, what happened between when you were 17 or a little bit younger, when you dropped out of high school, and then when you were 25 and you became a realtor?
So about 15, well, actually it was like in kindergarten where I started like thinking like, you know what, I don't know if school is for me. This is kind of like, this is long, like the time is moving very slow. So by the time I was like 8th grade, it was like school was getting really bad. And then ninth grade, I just was just like, all right, this isn't it for me. So after that, I immediately got a job. So I was working like 2 jobs at like 16 years old. So from like 16 to 25, most of those years, I was working anywhere between 2 and 3 jobs. I had my first son when I was 19. So that really motivated me to start trying to make some money. And then, yeah, when I was 25, I actually owned a barbershop that was failing, and eventually just completely failed. And one of the last days that I was there, someone came in. He had a nice Nixon watch. He was driving a Mazda, and I was like, "Oh, this guy's making a lot of money." And I asked him what he did. And he told me he was a real estate agent, and that they made about $60,000 to $70,000 a year average. So I was like, "Dude, that's more than what I'm making right now, owning a barbershop and working 2 jobs." So I went and got my real estate license.
And what were your parents' reaction when you had quit high school and kind of went through that transition?
Yeah.
Well, I grew up with a single mom. But my mom, by the time I was 15, she kind of just gave up because, like I said, it was, I just, like, I would literally sit in school and just look at the clock and be like, damn, it's only 10 o'clock. Holy crap. So, yeah, she kind of.
I can relate.
I just wasn't going to go to school. That was the problem.
Man, I really wish I could have figured that out, because I had that feeling freshman year, but I still like couldn't figure out how to get hey, I'm done. I'm done with this.
Yeah.
The reason I'm where I am right now is because I didn't get out of high school. I'd be so much further along by now.
Yeah, I think so. For me, I looked at it kind of like, all right, we're learning about these boats and what year and date they came. And I would ask the teachers like, hey, when are we going to use this? Like, when does this stuff come back up? And then I could never get a real answer. So I was just like, all right, this doesn't make sense. I need to make money. So I just dropped out to start working. And even for my kids, I have a 12 and a 6-year-old son. Like, I tell them right now, like, hey, like, if you want to come work with me when you're ready, we could do it. Because I'm not a big believer in schooling.
Did you ever come across any situations? I already know the answer is no, but I want to dive a little deeper into this. Did you ever come across any situations where that lack of finished education ever hindered you or slowed you down or stopped you?
You know, I'm not obviously the most intelligent person in the room, right? Like, you guys could probably outread me. You guys probably have a better vocabulary than I do. So it does come up day to day, but I think the difference is I know what to focus on, where other people are focused on a bunch of different things that don't really matter. And I'll focus on finding deals or building relationships or raising money or just high leverage situations. So yeah, I think it does hinder me day to day, but I make up for it in other ways.
You don't necessarily think about it when the paycheck comes in.
Yeah, no, I don't think about it at all anymore.
I didn't finish high school.
Yeah, exactly.
Even like
isn't as good.
So at Future Flipper, we have like 50 something employees or something like that. I've interviewed people that went to Harvard. I've interviewed people who went and used to work for marketing for Tesla. I've interviewed way smarter people than I am. And sometimes I almost feel embarrassed and I don't tell them my whole backstory because I'm just like, damn, I'm looking at their resume. I'm seeing what they did the last 15 years. And I feel bad, but that's really, you know, I think the way the world is moving in 2023.
Well, I think somebody listening to this can take away that no matter what their background is or how maybe they feel like they don't have an advantage, that it's possible for them to make real money doing real estate investing. Now, hard work was definitely part of the equation. I know, because you were working 2 jobs, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that's what actually helped you become a successful realtor, right?
Yeah.
It's like very hard to get started. So I'm curious, can you tell me about like what it felt like to be able to make $70,000 a year doing that? And then why did you end up transitioning away from being a realtor?
Yeah, so the guy that told me about being a real estate agent made $70,000 a year. Like my first year, I made like 150,000. So, like you said, working two jobs from 15 to 25, 2 to 3 jobs. So sometimes I would work graveyard, get off, go to another job, get off, go sleep in my car, then then go to another job. So my work ethic was high. So I remember when I got my real estate license, I come into the office and I'm like ready to work because from my understanding, when I started, there's no limit to how much you could make. I'm used to getting paid $7 to $10 an hour, $10 to $100 a day in tips. So I'm like, okay, like now I could go into real estate and there's no ceiling. So I go into the office and I remember I was just on my computer kind of acting like I knew what I was doing, but I was really watching the other realtors and I noticed that they would come in at like 10, they would kind of talk to their friends and then, they would do a little work, then go to lunch and then come back and then kind of maybe go on an appointment, maybe do some real estate stuff and then go home at 5. And I swear to God, I remember thinking like one of my first days at work, I was like, dude, I'm going to smoke these people because they're not actually working. They think they're working, but they're not. So my broker told me about cold calling. And he was like, yeah, you cold call for sale by owners and expired listings. And you ask them if you could list their house for them. And then you go on listing appointments. So I was like, okay, that's all I got to do. Like, that's the job. Just that. He was like, yes. I was like, perfect. So I would call from 7:30 a.m. to about 7 p.m. at night every day. And I just got good at it really fast because, like I said, I focused on one small thing. I didn't know how to read the contract. I didn't know real estate law. I didn't know anything about real estate. I just knew, okay, you call homeowners and then you set listing appointments and then you try to convince them to let you list their home. So that's what I did. And like I said, I think the first year I made like 150, the next year 250, then 500. So that's pretty much the secret to real estate, I think. Even with using DealMachine or let's say door knocking. So I'll tell someone, hey, go door knock NODs or absentees or whatever, distressed properties. And they're like, oh, well, what do I say? Tell them you want to buy the house. Okay. But what time should I do it at? As much time as possible. Yeah, but what about on the weekends? Is the weekends better? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really matter. You have to go out and just do the small actions that it takes to get deals as a real estate investor or a real estate agent, and everything else will follow.
It's like I think that's hunting. Really... it's like hunting because you think of like, now I don't know deer hunting very well, but you hear all these guys that go deer hunting. When are they going? Are they going at like 1 p.m? No, they're up before the sun comes up. They're in their stand and they're waiting for that deer to come by. Like they are vicious and hungry and ready. And having that's probably, to me, that seems more valuable, having the desire to work. And I can tell you enjoy working. I enjoy working. I could work circles around people and that motivates me as well. Just like, I can work 10 times more than you can, but that's reflective in the amount of success that you have in real estate is because you are the one that's willing to get up and be out before the sun comes up and go and do the hard things, door knocking and cold calling, because you understand the value of hard work. The people that don't understand the value of hard work are the ones that are going to lunch all the time, getting in at 10, clocking out at 5. How many people did you talk to today? Yeah, probably 5. Did you get any contracts? No. It's like, what's the point? Like,
you should have just stayed home.
If you're going to put in all this energy, you ought to be getting deals.
Yep. And I look at it too, like earlier, basketball. Sorry, really quick. The way I look at it as an example is like basketball. If me and David both join the NBA and both of our goals is to score as many points as possible. Well, I need to beat on the court playing as much time as possible. Even if David is better than me, if I'm on the court all the time, I'm going to score more points than David and I'm going to get better. So if David is on the sidelines thinking and asking questions and taking breaks and, you know, researching, I'm going to be on the court fumbling around trying to score a point. And eventually I will score and then gain momentum and then learn and then get better.
You get the hot hand.
No, I totally agree with you guys. Basically, there's a lot of things that we end up doing that feels like work that's not work, right? Like talking to people about what you're going to do, that's not doing the thing. Making goals about what you're going to do, like that's not doing the thing. Nothing's doing the thing but doing the thing. And that's kind of the spirit of what you guys are saying. By the way, Brian, you said NOD. And for those that aren't familiar with that, it means notice of default. And that's somebody that's missed a mortgage payment, right, Brian?
Yeah, so a notice of default means normally someone has missed at least 3 payments, and the bank sends them a notice saying, hey, we haven't received your payment. If you don't pay, you're going to be moved to a notice of sale, which means that we're going to sell your property.
Got it. And one thing I'm really curious on, not surprised that you started making a lot of money, more than the guy with the Mazda at being a real estate agent very quickly in your first year. You know, the people listening here, they're wanting to get their first real estate deal, often their first wholesale deal. So I'm really curious, why did you end up switching from being a real estate agent to what you did next, which I think is house flipping, right?
Yeah, house flipping and wholesaling. So like I said, I was like freaking busting my ass, working every day, working super hard. And then I just realized simple math. I was like, okay, well, the average home at the time that I was selling was somewhere around $200,000 to $300,000 at the time was luxury in 2015 in Las Vegas. So 3% of that is $9,000. After you pay commission splits and all that stuff, you're left with like $5,000 to $6,000 after TC, all the other crap, insurance. So I was like, okay, if I sell 10 homes, that's $50K. If I sell 50 homes, that's like $500K or whatever it is. And I was like, man, the math is just not adding up, because I met my partner, Ryan, and he was like, yeah, I net 25K every deal. So I was like, okay, if you net 25K every deal, that's about 40 to 45 homes a year you have to flip to make $1 million. I have to sell like more than 100. So I was like, oh, it's just simple math. I could do less deals and make more money. So I was like, I'm just going to focus on wholesaling and flipping instead of being a realtor.
Mm-hmm. And how did that feel to start? Like, what was the type of money that you were making whenever you made that transition?
So my income doubled. So I went from making $500,000 a year to more than $1 million a year, because it's just simple math. Like, it's, some people just overthink things. It's like, dude, if you go from one house making $5K to one house making $25K, that's 5 times the return on time. Yeah. So yeah, I just focused on that, and I love flipping houses, to be honest. I still think flipping houses is probably the best real estate investing strategy there is. I think it's better than buying rentals. I think passive income is like a scam and like a fake dream. I think that wholesaling's great, but if a wholesaler makes 10, then a flipper should be making like 50.
Yeah.
That's
what
normally
are some of the
how
reasons,
it works out.
What are some of the reasons why somebody might work with you as a wholesaler instead of selling their house with you as like a real estate agent?
Yeah. So, well, now I don't even offer real estate agent services, but when I started, I was flipping houses. I wasn't wholesaling. So I think for me, flipping houses as a realtor is a little bit more ethical than wholesaling, in my opinion. If I'm talking to a homeowner, I would tell them like, hey, I could list your house on the market for this, or I will personally buy it for this, instead of like, I'll list your house for this and I will find someone else to buy your house for this, but I'm not going to tell you how much I'm going to make. Do you get what I'm saying? So That's why I chose flipping houses instead of wholesaling at the time.
Yeah.
And so piss off some of your listeners, maybe.
No.
Well, no, I think most of our listeners are trying to get their first wholesale deal. And so they're getting the lay of the land of like, well, why would somebody even sell me their house, instead of them selling it, working with an agent I know they would love to hear some of those reasons.
Yeah. Well, if a seller decides to work with a wholesaler or flipper, it's usually convenience. Usually there's a good percentage. I don't want to like throw out a random number, but I would say 20% of homeowners don't actually want to work with a real estate agent. They just want to sell their house. And however they could do that as fast as possible, they're willing to do that. So even for me, like
speed and convenience.
So I have rental properties that ended up not working out. And those frustrations can be very stressful. And sometimes people are just like, you know what? I rather just get rid of it and not have to deal with it than to go talk to a realtor, have them come into my house with this suit and their little BMW and try to smooze me and all this crap. And then I'm going to sell for 300, but I'm really going to make 250 anyway. So I might as well, sell it for 225 and not have to deal with all this stuff.
Yeah.
Got it. And there's people that definitely want that because they want to get rid of it like 2 weeks from now and they don't want to wait for however long it takes to list it and find a buyer.
Yeah. So like a story I usually tell people is I had a rental property in Las Vegas that a tenant moved out of it. He called me on Friday. He was like, "Hey brother, I got a new job in California. I'm going to move. You can keep my deposit and I'll allow you to have all my stuff in my house." And I'm just like, dude, I don't want your stuff. Like, go get your stuff. He's like, "No, don't worry about it, man. You can have it." And just hung up on me. So I called my mom at the time because I was living in California. I was like, "Mom, I need you to go to this house and take pictures of all his stuff and post it on Craigslist for free."
Nice.
And she's like, "Brian, you could sell this couch for $200. These plates are $1 a piece. This TV, you could get $150. And I'm like, "Mom, like, I'm not going to sell this crap. I am not going to go do all this work to make this little bit amount of money. I rather post it on Craigslist. Somebody will come that day," because I know there's companies that do that. They'll come that day and pick it all up for free. And it takes a huge burden off of my back and I could move on with my life. It's the same thing with real estate. Some people have houses that they're like, "Dude, I know I have a house in the ghetto that's vacant and getting broken into, or my tenants aren't paying, or I have a brother-in-law who's living there who's not paying me. Like, I just want to get rid of it so I could just move on with my life." That's normally why people sell to wholesalers or flippers.
Got it. And so you're making $1 million a year wholesaling. How do you decide which properties you would wholesale versus which you would flip?
Yeah, that's a good question. So normally I look at what's the actual net profit. So if I could net more than, let's say my wholesale fee is going to be $20K. I would have to make at least 2 times that to flip it. So, and then it also depends on where the property is. So I was doing deals in Southern California. If the property is more than an hour away from me, then I'm going to wholesale it because I know my crew is not going to go to that property. And then let's say a property it has fire damage, or I have to pull permits in order to do the rehab, then I'm also going to wholesale it because I just don't want to go through that process of dealing with the county. So that's normally how I would decide if I'm flipping or wholesaling. And then lastly, it depends on how much money I have. So as a flipper, I don't know if you guys have flipped houses, but flipping houses is very capital intensive. Like I can't flip all the houses because how much money it takes. So I would have to budget like, all right, I have 10 flips. I got $200K in the bank. I can't go below that because my cost is $70,000 a month. So that's too dangerous. So I got to start wholesaling until I get rid of some of my flips.
Got it. Okay. That's really clear. So if you can make twice as much flipping it, you'll go ahead and flip it. If you also have the capital readily available, or otherwise you're just going to wholesale it. And if it's in a different market than where you're living, you're definitely going to wholesale it no matter what.
Exactly.
So
Clear.
you've got
So,
some rentals, right?
Yes.
So how do they fall in the bucket of what is a rental?
Yeah. So typically, if I can 100% BRRRR the property, so if I could buy it, renovate it, refinance, and pull 100% of my money out and it cash flows, I will keep it.
Okay.
If I get a property that's so below market value that it fits the 1% rule in California, I'll keep it. And then also, just with making the truth about making $1 million a year net is if you net $1 million a year, you will pay about 50% in taxes. That's
Right.
what it is, especially in California. You have the 34% federal tax and like a 15% state tax. You're going to pay half to the government. So I might as well buy some rentals and then do a cost segregation where I get to depreciate the property and then not pay taxes.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
And how many, if this is a allowable question, how many rental properties do you have?
I only have like 20 rental properties right now, which is like 32 doors.
Okay.
Oh, wow. So
And
some are
what is that?
duplexes. Only 20.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, only 20 properties. I mean,
Yeah, because I'm sure you guys talk to people who have like I had Chris Crone on my podcast. He has 6,500 rentals. I was like, damn. Now I feel like I'm broke.
That's next level.
6,500 rentals.
Yeah.
Jeez. All
Do you
right.
guys have rentals? Are you guys working on your rental portfolio?
Yes, I've got only 9.
There you go.
I only have 41.
There you go. See?
Love it.
But now
Gotta step my game up.
when you're like, the rental income, the passive income is not the way, I'm like, shit, I'm gonna go sell all these this afternoon.
How
I need
much,
to
if you don't
change
mind
the
me asking,
strategy.
like, how much cash flow do you guys make from your rental portfolio a month? If you don't mind me asking.
For me, $160,000, and then the net is $60,000.
Okay, so like $5,000 a month.
I would have
how
to
many doors
refer
is
to
that?
a spreadsheet.
9.
9. That's pretty high.
Yeah.
Where are your
typically
rentals
pick
at?
properties. They're in Indianapolis, but I set a goal for myself. I was like, I don't want anything that rents less than $1,200 because I am self-managing it, and I just want it to be easy to manage. And it's not worth me managing a door if it's only bringing in less than $1,000. It's just not worth the time. And so I've tried to go for more like B class with like nicer finishes than what you'd find in a rental. And it seems to attract like higher quality. I can push the price higher than the average for that size house. And then they end up staying several years. So it's made
And
it
that's a
fairly
single
easy.
family house?
They're all single family houses. That's right.
And you're saying that the total property rents for more than $1,200 or you net $1,200?
It's got to rent for at least $1,200. So my range is
Got it.
$1,200 up to $2,800.
Wow. Yeah, I need to talk to you because in Las Vegas, it's like if you break $250 net, you're killing it. Where I've been thinking about going to the Midwest to starting to build a rental portfolio.
I really like the Midwest for sure. Well, Brian, so I'm really curious. You've obviously helped so many people, right? Because you're saying that Wealthy Investor has 50 employees. Can you give us a summary about who's signing up for coaching and what they are learning?
So we have 2 main programs. So one of them is the entry level. We call Rookie. We used to call Rookie. Now we just call it Wealthy Investor. But that's for people who are coming in and they just want to do their first deal. And then we have a higher ticket one that's for experienced real estate investors who want to scale their business to 7 figures and they want to be surrounded with other high level entrepreneurs. So we have those 2 products.
Okay, so which one's more rewarding for you to help, the beginner or somebody who's done some deals and wants to scale up?
Honestly, both. So like last night, I was talking to some guy named Abel. He's one of our students. He started 2 years ago. I remember when he first started, he was a gym trainer and he came to our office. He literally cried in front of us and was just like, dude, I'm going to give it my all. I'm so excited. I'm just going to change my life. started doing deals in the lower ticket one, then moved up to the higher ticket one. And last night he called me and was like, hey man, like I need some advice on how to be a better leader. We have our office and, you know, I'm struggling with these things. So just the questions are different, but I just love helping people that actually are going to take action and are not going to like waste my time and their time.
Mm-hmm.
Like those,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you're a beginner or if you're experienced, like those are the people that I want to help. The people who just come in and they ask 50 questions and then they're inconsistent. Those are the people that I just feel like I'm literally wasting my time talking to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so hard.
Yeah. So there's a
too,
certain type of person.
Yeah. It's that guy you're looking for, the guy that's going to get up before the sun and get out there and hustle. We see that all the time. There's so many people that come to Megan and I and they're like, hey, can we ask you some questions? Like, yeah, sure. Let's go have dinner. And they'll ask questions and ask questions and ask questions. And like 6 months down the road, hey, we have some questions. Cool. Have you gotten a deal yet? Nope. Haven't done a deal. I literally know somebody in our circle who they've been in every mentorship. They've been in every real estate meeting, real estate meetup, and they have yet to do a deal. And I'm just like, why are you doing this? Like you are you're killing your own dream of getting your dreams are skewed. Like, what was your point in asking all these questions? Because now you know the answers to everything and you're not pulling the trigger on a deal.
Yeah.
And it is the most
tough.
frustrating thing, because it's like I don't want to put myself around people who are just going to ask questions and not do anything. Like I want people that are going to be on it. Even when it comes to our own employees, it's like I want to make sure if you're on my team as a acquisitions manager, I want to see you hustling. Period.
100%.
Like if I don't want to have to be feeling like I got to put the boots back on and go out and get deals. I want to feel like that. I want people that have that grit, that are going to go out and get deals and be hungry to get deals. That's what you want to target. That's the kind of people you want to have in your circles.
Yep.
Right.
100%.
I feel like anyone listening, a takeaway would be, even if you feel a little bit uncomfortable, then you're going to learn more if you just go ahead and start making some of those cold calls or start doing some of those door knocks, like do 10. And you're going to learn from those experiences more than just asking the question and trying to do it perfectly the first time. Brian, maybe to wrap things up, you could give us, like, talking about the rookie program that you have, like, what do you think, like, the top 3 things are that are like unlocks that people have when they finally sign up for your program?
So I think what happens when people want to get into real estate, David, is they'll look at someone like David, like you, and they're like, man, you know what? David makes $5,000 a month in Indianapolis. I want to do that. And then they'll kind of start looking into Indianapolis. They'll kind of start like running the numbers there. And then they'll listen to another podcast. And then Ryan wholesaled the house and made $10,000. He's like, damn, you know what? I need to make $10,000 like Ryan and start wholesaling. So let me start looking into that. And then that will take 2 weeks. And then they'll listen to a different podcast about Airbnb. And then it just keeps going. So I've done hundreds of onboarding calls, literally hundreds. We've had almost 2,000 students come through Wealthy Investor. And like the main thing that I hear on the first onboarding call is like, yeah, you know, David, I want to flip houses and wholesale, but then I want to get into, commercial and then get passive income and then be financially free and then buy some Airbnbs that I can vacation on. And, you know, that's what I want to do. And I'm like, okay, like how the hell am I supposed to help you do that? Like,
yeah,
I get it, you know, but like you need to have like a realistic goal for the next 30 days. And you need to have one exit strategy that you're going to commit to executing before you jump into anything else. So you have to almost put yourself on a diet from all distractions and focus on, like I said, the one thing that you want to do next. Whatever is the very next step, that's what you need to focus on. So that's like the main problem that most new real estate investors have. And sometimes the next step, for example, if let's say a student came to me and they're like, hey, Brian, I want to drive for dollars and get a wholesale deal. We get there. That's the main thing. I would say, okay, David, you need to be on DealMachine every day. Every day, you need to be on DealMachine. You need to delete YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok off your phone. And when you're bored, you need to start playing with DealMachine and figuring out all the little things it offers. So that way, when you're out driving for dollars or you're out door knocking using the app, you could actually maximize the tool you have. So, picking a strategy.
It's just like you said when you were getting into being an agent, right? You were focused on one thing, and that was calling and setting appointments.
Yep, 100%. And so I would say one strategy, pick one tool that you're going to master, rather that be DealMachine, a dialer, RVMs, mail, whatever it is, whatever the tool is, master using that tool. And then lastly, surrounding yourself with other people that are currently doing what you want to do. So if I want to buy rentals in Indiana, best believe I'm going to start texting David every day and be like, what's up, David? How's it going? How are your rentals going? Hey, like, how much did you buy them for? Hey, like, where did you find these deals? Hey, like, you know, who's your lender? You know, like start asking like real questions, not just like, hey, David, I want to scale my business. Can you help me? It's like, I don't know what the hell scale your business means. Like, give me a million different things. But yeah, those are the three things I would try to focus on.
Love it. So basically focus on one thing and then talk with people who have accomplished that one thing. And so you're learning specific things from them that you can take and then implement and put into action. I think that's a really great takeaway and place to end the podcast. Brian Davila, and you're on Instagram as the Brian Davila. Is there anywhere else that you'd like people to connect with you?
Mainly Instagram. I use Instagram for everything. So if people want to connect, just reach out and I'll answer all my DMs and comments.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being on, Brian. It was a pleasure.
All right.
Brian, I'm adding you to my Instagram right now.
There you go. And make sure there's fake accounts. I only have one account. So make sure you spell my name right. It's Davila, the Brian Davila.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.